Third time is a charm. This hike has eluded me 2 times before. I'm really hoping that this time it comes through. But before I tell you what happened, let's get through the rest of the route. 7 more legs, Arolla to Zermatt. Let's go. Quick recap. The Walker's Haute route runs 14 days from Chamonix, France to Zermatt, Switzerland. In part 1, we covered the western half, legs 1 through 7, ending in Arolla, the halfway point. Here in part 2, we pick up in Arolla and finish in Zermatt. The eastern half is where the route gets higher, more exposed, and more dramatic. 7 legs to go, let's go over them. Day 8, from Arolla to La Sage. Just like in the western half, we start with a gentle walk across the valley. And it's a good thing because things are going to get a lot harder from here. We make our way through Les Ordères up to La Sage, where we'll spend the night. Day 9, from La Sage to Cabane de Moiry, 7.5 miles, 12.1 kilometers. Crossing the Col de Tutse, you finish at one of the most spectacular huts on the entire route. The Cabane de Moiry sits right above the Moiry Glacier. That climb looks tough, but staying at the hut by the glacier will make it worth it. Day 10, Cabane de Moiry to Zinal, 9.8 miles, 15.8 kilometers. We'll go up the Col de Sorebois and descend into Zinal. Zinal is one of those Swiss mountain villages that makes you want to stay an extra day. And maybe I will. If I'm really tired, I'm staying an extra day. Day 11, Zinal to Gruben, 11 miles, 17.7 kilometers. In this leg, we're going to cross the Col de Forcleta, one of the longest and most remote days on the entire route. You cross into the Tourmental Valley, fewer hikers, more solitude. Day 12, from Gruben to St. Niklaus, 10.9 miles, 17.5 kilometers. In this leg, we'll cross the Oxterbar Pass, a big descent into the Arolla Valley, and the first real sense that Zermatt is getting close. Day 13, from St. Niklaus to Europahütte, 7.5 miles, 12.1 kilometers. Here we have 2 options. We can take the valley straight through to the next leg all the way to Zermatt, or we can take the high route, which is more exposed, includes the Charles Cohen suspension bridge, and has amazing views. This route, however, is weather dependent and also depends on how I feel, if I'm up to it. Day 14, Europahütte to Zermatt, 13.9 miles, 22.4 kilometers. Man, that's a long leg. And of course, it's the final leg. The Matterhorn gets bigger with every step. And then Zermatt. 14 days after leaving Chamonix, we'll be done. Looking at this second part of the route, it makes me kind of nervous. It's going to be super challenging. It's exciting, but it's also a little bit nerve-wracking. As you can see, this is not an easy, casual hike. So why do I do it? Because I've always loved the challenge. There's something about setting a goal that feels impossible and then doing it. But it's not just the challenge. It's meeting other hikers on the trail, sharing a meal at the hut at the end of the day, swapping stories with people from all over the world who are all doing the same crazy thing that you're doing. Solo hikers, groups, everyone out there pushing themselves. And there's also the scenery, the glaciers, the high passes, the Swiss villages. It's invigorating. In part 1, I mentioned that this is my 3rd attempt at doing the Walker's Haute route. My first time was in 2023. I had everything planned. The huts were booked, the planes, the trains, everything, the whole thing. Earlier in the year, I traveled through Mexico for about 3 months and I got really sick. I came back to the US, and after seeing various doctors, my doctor looked at me and said, "I don't think it's a good idea for you to go on this trip." And that was pretty hard. I had to cancel everything. And not only that, but it was devastating to hear that I wasn't healthy enough to do something that I loved. And so it was really difficult. And but I had to take some time to work on myself and to work on my health, and I did that. And in 2025 I felt ready, and I started to look at the Walker's route again, and I started doing the planning, and I started doing, the investigation of the route, when all of a sudden some personal stuff came up and I just could not make the dates work. And so then I had to pivot, and I ended up doing the Altavia 1 in the Dolomites instead. And if you haven't checked out my video on the Altavia 1, check it out. It mentions my whole journey and my story. Not only did I meet a great group of people during the hike, but it also signaled that I was back, that my body was healthy, that I was able to do these long multi-day hikes that I like to do. And so I really felt amazing and healthy and back. And it also gave me the courage to start this YouTube channel, because I felt I had a story to tell. And I feel that most often than not, when people do these kinds of trips, there's a story behind it. It's a story of healing. It's a story of persevering, of continuing on. And so I wanted to share that. And that brings us to 2026, my third attempt, the Walker's route this summer. If you missed part 1, where I covered the western half of the route from Chamonix to Arolla, the link is in the description and on the end screen. If you want to follow along this summer, subscribe. I'll be filming every day on the trail starting July 23rd. The Walker's route from Chamonix to Zermatt this summer. Un sendero a la vez. Vamos!